Hey everybody, welcome back to Tech Odyssey. So I'm here today to talk about the iPhone SE 2022 battery life on LTE with 5G turned off. And you'd be really surprised to hear that it actually performed worse than it did on 5G. Seriously. If you actually heard that, you would be surprised. But that's not what you're going to hear because the battery life is a little better. Haha, I gotcha. So yes, I use this 24 hours, actually a little over 24 hours on LTE, turned 5G off. I had a lot of people that asked me, hey, can you test it with LTE? I don't have 5G in my area, or my 5G is not very good, or I just don't care about 5G. I'd rather have the extra battery savings, if in fact there is any battery savings. And there seems to be, probably in the range of about 30 minutes to an hour. Now, what I did is I used it just as I would normally. I had it on Wi-Fi. I was at home. I left for lunch, went and ran some errands, was away from the house for probably an hour or two today. And I also made some really substantial phone calls today. I used it for my business. I called the IRS. I spent an hour and a half on the phone with the IRS using the iPhone SE 2022, also using my AirPods 3 through Bluetooth. So that drained battery. And then I also made other phone calls. So I spent probably 2 hours to 2 hours and 20 minutes on the phone today, which is way more than I did when I was testing out the phone previously on 5G. So I'm going to say 30 minutes to an hour longer on the battery life, because when I tested it, I actually checked it. Even after using the phone for all those phone calls, I got down to 20% and I checked it, and I had used it for 5 hours and 56 minutes screen on time with 20% left. The best I got so far with using 5G, similar circumstances without all the phone calls, is I got it down to, I got 6 hours of screen on time, I think about 15%. If I remember correctly, I'd have to go back and watch the video. So there does seem to be some battery savings using only LTE. Now I know that 5G has gotten substantially better, especially on the lesser high-powered frequencies like the 5GE that you see and all that stuff, the sub-6 5G as it's called. And yeah, I do think there's a battery savings there. I do think that it's enough that if you don't care about 5G, that it could be helpful, especially if you're not in a 5G area. If you're not in a serious 5G area, or if it's just not in your country or your area, definitely turn it off so it's not trying to find that, basically searching for that while you're using your phone. And I'll show you here in a minute how to turn off 5G so that way you know how to do it yourself. It could be beneficial. And surprisingly, even with AT&T, you can do it. With Samsung phones on AT&T, at least historically, you can't turn it off with Android phones either. So I've tried it before. If you use it on T-Mobile, that's one reason I always like T-Mobile, is because you could turn things off. You could turn off LTE, you could turn off 5G, all that good stuff. AT&T historically not. So I tested it out, I used it, and I wanted to come back and provide the feedback. But still, regardless of whether you get 6 hours, whether you get 6.5 hours, whether you get 7 hours screen on time, I still think it's pretty substantial. And some people are like, oh, that's terrible. I actually had somebody tell me that the battery life on this phone was terrible, or maybe even, I think the word was abysmal, because it only got 6 hours of screen on time and over 24 hours of standby time. And that was also true again in this time. Over 24 hours of standby time. I took it off the charger at like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock yesterday afternoon, and charged it finally at like 5 or 6 o'clock this evening. So I think that it holds up pretty well. I am really impressed with the battery life on this. Being able to squeak out 6 hours, whether it's on 5G or on LTE, it makes all the difference in the world for me, because previously I really enjoyed the iPhone SE 2020, but I was only getting about 4.5 if I stretched it out. And now being able to get 6 pretty reliably, I think is pretty good. That's good enough for me to use it as a daily driver. Now, there are compromises, of course. It has a small screen on here, 4.7 inches, and it doesn't have 120 hertz refresh rate. It doesn't have some other things that I would like in the phone, like a bigger screen. I do like a larger screen. I don't want a 6.7, 6.8 inch screen, but if they gave us like a 5.2, 5.5, I think that there's a really happy medium there for this device. And I think that maybe the next time they should bump it up a little bit, or I would really like to see if they would give us this iPhone SE Plus that's been rumored before. Who knows if that'll come to fruition. But overall, if you want to pick up the iPhone SE 2022, I think you're going to be remarkably surprised by the battery life. I think it's going to exceed your expectations, especially if they were low. And this was very funny because a lot of people before the phone even came out were trashing it, saying what bad battery life it was going to get. And one thing I've learned over the last couple of years, and I used to jump to judgments about a lot of things. I used to be like, okay, that's terrible. That's going to be bad. I can't believe they did this. And I still get wrapped around the axle over a few things, like when they made the Tab S7, sorry, the FE. I really didn't like how they basically disguised the processor, and they put the lower powered older one in the 5G tablet that they of course sold first. And then the Wi-Fi model was cheaper and had the better processor, but they didn't tell you they had different chips. I thought that was misleading. I don't like it when they do things like charging $1,000 for a phone with a 1080p display. I think that's not cool. But I don't like to criticize the actual product itself till I have time to test it, and that's why I buy these. I knew the SE was going to be controversial. I wanted to test it anyway, but I went out and bought it with my hard-earned money so I could test it out and give you guys a nice, reliable, practical perspective on whether the phone works or not. So this is now the third time I've tested the battery. I tested it on 5G. I did some confirmation tests with also charging speeds. And now, y'all guys asked for it. Here it is, 4G LTE. Still gets over 6 hours. Might would even get 7 hours had I not spent 2 hours on the phone today using Bluetooth. I think that really played into it a lot with discharging the battery. And again, I got to 5 hours and 56 minutes with 20% battery left, which was better than when I was on 5G. So not too shabby there, Apple. Good job with the good old iPhone SE. And there you go. There's some updated battery life information for those of you who are curious about using it with LTE only and turning off 5G. And now I'm going to show you briefly how to turn off 5G on your iPhone so you can go do that if you want to use it on LTE only. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and show you how to turn off 5G on your iPhone. It's really easy. Go to Settings, and then go here to where it says Cellular. And once you get in here, click on Cellular Data Options. And right here you can see Voice and Data. Right here you have three options. You can do LTE, 5G Auto, or 5G On. 5G On is going to have 5G on all the time. That's going to burn up the most battery. And then 5G Auto explains here, uses 5G only when it will not significantly reduce battery life. So you're going to have a difference here. When I've used it every time on 5G, it's been on 5G Auto. If you put it on 5G on, it's going to burn up more battery. And then you put it on LTE, this disables 5G completely. You're only using 4G LTE, and that right there is where you're going to get the battery savings. And I do believe it does add some battery savings to your phone. It could be worthwhile and a good option if you really don't care about 5G, if you don't notice much 5G improvement in your area, or you just don't have it in your area because you don't want the phone searching for a signal. So there you go. That's how you turn off 5G and just use LTE on your iPhone. Okay, that's it. I showed you how to turn off 5G. We've talked about the battery life, and go ahead and wrapping it up. That's all I got. So if you have any questions or comments, please head down to the comment section. I will get back with you. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like and the subscribe button and the little notification bell if you want updates when new videos come out. And as always, thanks for being here. I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you guys next time.